30 male. I'm married to my high school sweetheart, Linda, 30 female, and we have 2 beautiful children together. I'm really happy with my life, but recently my wife has uncovered something that I agreed was bad at the time, but I don't see it as unforgivable because of the good that came out of it. Back in high school, it was always Linda's dream to go to college and study abroad in Europe. She got a part-time job to pay for extra tutoring and became fluent in French. While I wouldn't mind a trip to Europe for a few days, I didn't like the idea of living there, even if it was temporary. I expressed my concerns, but Linda was determined to go and said we could either do long distance or break up. That really hurt, and I felt as if she didn't care about me or our relationship. My friends made jokes about how Linda would sleep around overseas, and it got to me. We ended up breaking up, and it sucked because while I was miserable, Linda was beaming with excitement over her future. Officially, Linda planned on applying to schools only in England or France, but her parents convinced her to apply to schools in the state as a backup. That was the one she ended up attending. However, Linda was devastated at not getting into any of her European schools, and when she tried to do a study abroad program, she ended up not getting the scholarships and grants she needed and could go. Linda felt completely defeated. But during that time, we reconnected and eventually got married. For our honeymoon, Linda wanted to go to Paris. But after her parents, my parents, and I explained the benefits of putting that money towards a house, she relented. I know that Europe was always a sore subject, but I thought that Linda was still just as happy as I was. However, after the recent birth of our twins, Linda's mother finally admitted to stealing and shredding Linda's acceptance letters to the European schools and giving her fake rejection ones, as lying about not having the money to finance her trip abroad. Thus, Linda exploded at her mom and immediately made no contact with her parents. At first, I was just as shocked as she was, but after 3 months, I finally felt it was time to start rebuilding some bridges. When I talked to Linda about this, she was offended that I would suggest such a thing and stated that her parents were dead to her and would never be allowed to see our children. I told Linda that while I understood her pain, she also needed to see the good that came from this, as we may never have gotten back together and our children wouldn't exist. Linda then snapped at me and has been giving me the cold shoulder since. I was trying to get her to look on the bright side of things. Am I the idiot? I had no idea what her mom did until she confessed to it. Her parents' manipulation worked out for you. Well, at least until your wife divorces you. You're the idiot. Also, while getting a house makes more financial sense than a fancy trip, it's not like Paris is going anywhere, and I have every intention of taking Linda on a trip to Europe in the future. Seriously, you couldn't even take a trip to Paris for her honeymoon? You said you wouldn't mind visiting, but it sounds like you actively despise her cherished dreams. I hope she leaves you. This Opie can claim that he didn't know what her parents did all he wanted. The way he's reacting is 100 making his wife believe that he was in on it. He agrees with what they did, and they're all collectively complicit in stifling her attempt to explore the world and grow as a person. This is not about Europe, and OP doesn't get that. I would leave your butt too, idiot. Dude, she lost several opportunities she was incredibly excited about because her parents were manipulative. So many things she wanted were lost because of them, and you're backing them up because you couldn't stomach the idea of going the distance because of unfounded jokes and because it got you bought. Be together? Together? Your friends are idiots too. What kind of joke is that? And the betrayal of this post took my breath away. Her parents clipped her wings. Ever understood people who disown family members, especially their parents, but I can get behind it in this case. That lightly, or she might just decide that it isn't too late to make her Paris life a reality, minus one judgmental husband. You are the idiot along with her awful mother. I, 24, female, am currently pregnant. I live with my fiancé Dan in the town where I grew up. I have a great relationship with my parents, but they had me quite late in life and they're both retired now, living in a beach town in the south. When they moved out, they sold me the house I grew up in well below market value in exchange for me hosting them when they needed or wanted to come to town. It's been like that for 2 years. They've been here a bunch of times for 3 to 4 days at a time, and it's been a good arrangement. Yesterday, I was talking to my mom about the birth, and I said I would like her to be in town when I give birth and stay for a few weeks. But unfortunately, Dan has no relationship with his family, and I'm an only child with only a couple of very elderly aunts and a few cousins I don't have much of a relationship with, so we don't have much in terms of a support system. Therefore, I'd love for my parents to come here. My parents offered to come here and help around the house with the baby, offering me the emotional support I know I'm going to need, etc. My mom was excited that I was asking her to do this, and said she'd be okay with staying with us for a few weeks while we adjusted to the baby. I then told her I didn't mean her staying with us, just in town, as I believe Dan and I will need and want time alone to adjust to the baby. My mom was a little offended, saying that she wasn't going to bother us and she was going to help out. But I told her it was nothing personal. I just preferred if she got a hotel or Airbnb or something. My father then intervened, having been somewhere within earshot, and said that accommodation would be expensive around that time of year. Our town has a very famous, huge Christmas market. He wasn't about to spend thousands of dollars when I was asking them to come. And it had been our agreement when they sold me the house that they could stay whenever they wanted. Which fair, but I don't think having a newborn at home is just a regular time in someone's life. And it's not like I ever complained about them coming over before. I don't want them in the house, but I do want them in town, and I feel a little sad that they're putting money above their grandson and me. My mother hung up the call trying to appease the situation, but then sent me a text saying that she and my dad were a little upset over the whole thing and they thought I wasn't being reasonable. When Dan got home, I told him all this, and he kind of sided with them, saying they should be allowed to stay with us. But I still don't think it makes sense, as we'll need our alone time.
Was I the idiot here? Serious question. Are you expecting them to pay thousands for an Airbnb so they can come over to cook and clean and get out and give you a private time?
That's honestly how this reads to me. What's worse is that the house you refused to let them stay in was the house that they sold to you at a low price out of kindness. They would make a much better profit renting the house out. It's also going to be really rich when your baby's screaming in the middle of the night and you're calling your mom at her overpriced Airbnb to come over and rock the baby so you can sleep for a 30. Minute stretch for the first time in a week. Are you kidding me? Of course they're putting money first because they're the ones who would spend thousands of dollars for a hotel just to help you out with the baby. Blaming them is unfair and unnecessary. You're the one reneging on the deal that you three agreed to, which was for you to house them when they come to town. Wow. How entitled are you? Either host them in exchange for them helping you around the house, which is reasonable, or raise your newborn without them to do your household chores. Also, what's Dan up to during this time? Is he incapable of picking up around the house, offering you emotional support, and helping you take care of the new baby? I get it that it's nice to have family around to help with a new baby, but it kind of sounds like the baby's father has been left out of this picture. They had known her most, if not all, of her life. My uncle met his second wife, Janet, 4 years ago. They started dating a few months later and married 2 years ago. Janet has struggled with the fact that the family still remembers Lena. We still mark the anniversary of her passing. We remember her birthday and leave stuff on her grave. My cousins talk about her a lot. They say how they wish she was still here. It's not that we dedicate our whole lives to it, but when someone brings up family photos, she's in many of them. Same with old family videos. She was also responsible for the flower garden in my grandparents' house, and there are a lot of memories of her. Janet has asked my parents and grandparents why they feel the need to remember Lena as though she were their daughter and sister instead of Nick's wife. Book fragment. Once she grumbled that my youngest cousin spent his art class making something for his mom's grave for Mother's Day, instead of making her something. She's asked that my parents and grandparents take down the old family photos, including Lena. It was at my cousin's birthday party. A couple of weeks ago, where both sets of his grandparents were posing for a photo, and he had brought up his mom that Janet started grumbling and sulking, which had come up. I asked her if she was okay, and she said she hated mentions of that woman. She's never seen in-laws as fond of a late daughter-in-law before. They mourn her passing after so long. She said she had figured she would have stepped into her place by now. I told her she needed to understand that Lena was a part of her history, was a big part of mine, and that she would always be a part of our family and someone we loved. I told her we could love both of them, but as long as she competes with my aunt, she won't ever be able to get close to us because she never tries to hide her feelings. And we can't just act like someone we love didn't exist. She had a tantrum where she called me an insensitive witch. She told me I should have been dropping to my knees and apologizing for making her feel less than. But instead, I told her she has no right to expect her place in the family to be put before a dad. woman. I was shocked, as was the rest of the family who were very unhappy with her, especially Uncle Nick. But I do feel kind of bad. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot? You what?
Oh, she got mad because your cousin made something for their mother's grave.
If you compete with the dead, even more so when they were well loved when they were alive, you will lose hands down. I think it speaks volumes that you left the disagreement feeling bad, and she left it feeling angry. She sounds bitter and insecure. That's not on you or your family. That's her thing. I always taught my kids that you could never have too much love in your life. That goes for people that have died as well. You'll never forget them, nor stop loving them. Clearly, no one ever taught Janet that lesson. I feel bad for your cousins. Exactly. She should be helping those kids celebrate their mother and forming her niche herself. She should stop trying to erase people and earn her own space. Lana died. It's not like there was a bitter divorce. She was an active member of the family. Janet should be concerned with bringing value to the family instead of getting rid of something. I, 31 male, had been engaged to my current fiancé, 34 female, for 2 years. We're not rushing into getting married. My fiancé has been struggling with debt since she graduated from college. Her parents gave her a loan to help pay some of her debt. Her biggest issue is that she loves to buy things that aren't necessary. What I didn't know was that she had 3 credit cards that she would use, and they were already maxed out. She works as a registered nurse and uses most of her paycheck to pay off the debt. We decided to go on a vacation and decided to have some fun at a casino. I put in a reasonable amount and ended up winning a large jackpot. The money was enough to put towards some of the bills and mortgage. My fiancé kept begging me to use all of the money on her debt, and I told her I was concerned about her going back into debt. She's been staying quiet and won't talk to me unless it's regarding the money. But when we got home, we invited her parents over for dinner, and she told them how much I had won. Her parents were so happy and relieved, and her mother asked if I would use the money on her debt. I explained to them that I would use the money towards the bills, mortgage, and paying off some of my car loans. I do love my fiancé, but I don't trust her with the money. I did deposit the money into my bank account. She did trash our entire room, trying to find the money. Her family thinks that since I'm going to be her husband, all my money should be hers. I feel that because I have my concerns about her going back into debt, I don't trust her with this large amount of money. Am I the idiot for not giving my fiancé any winnings to pay off her debt? Not the idiot. You need to rethink marrying someone who would trash your room looking for money that doesn't belong to her. Do you know what that sounds like? For an addict. Has she been evaluated for shopping addiction? You're right to not want to pay off the debt for her. It sounds like she'd just go right back into it. Lots of red flags here. If she's this bad now, it'll worsen when you marry. She'll constantly be putting you and your credit score at risk. One of the most common reasons people fight or break up is due to financial issues. But people fight or get divorced because of money, and divorces often cause significant financial damage. I'm all for married couples sharing their resources, but this situation sounds worrisome. Is the original poster POF, and their fiancé may not be financially compatible. I seriously suggest reconsidering the marriage. I don't like judging people who have financial troubles, but it seems like the fiancé is the one who can't stay out of debt. I have a friend whose husband didn't know about her secret credit cards, which she used for salon visits, clothes, and toys for their kids. Unfortunately, my friend passed away in a bike accident, and the insurance and condolences paid off her debt. However, she accrued significant debt again within 5 years. This is a wake-up call for the ORPO. Their fiancé tried to steal money that is legally theirs, so I advise checking the credit report and setting an alert, just in case they feel entitled to the OPS credit. Then, run like the wind. My parents recently celebrated their 45th anniversary. My brother and I organized a family reunion as a gift to them because our parents often said they miss seeing many family members, and it's a shame they didn't get to see them for so long. This reunion has been in the works for almost a year to give people time to plan. My wife and I enjoy cooking, and we prepared a large portion of the food. We sent out invitations about 7 months ago, requesting to be informed of any food allergies so we could plan accordingly. Last month, I emailed everyone, letting them know they could bring something if they chose to, and listed all the food allergies I was informed of. No one had any questions or brought up any dietary restrictions. Most of our family from both sides attended, and we invited many of our parents' friends. As a result, there was a lot of food to feed all the guests. During the party, 2 cousins approached my brother and me, asking about the ingredients in many of the dishes because they couldn't eat certain foods due to meat or dairy content. It turned out that one cousin was a vegan, the other was a vegetarian, and there were 3 other people who were vegan or vegetarian. However, only these 2 cousins couldn't find anything to eat. I apologized for the lack of vegan options because I wasn't aware. There were vegetarian-friendly options, but they claimed there weren't enough options or that they weren't prepared as nicely as many of the other dishes and sides. And to clarify, we offered more than just a salad. We also served macaroni and cheese, grilled veggie skewers, mashed potatoes, cucumber salad, mushroom steaks, deviled eggs, fruit ambrosia, and homemade veggie burgers. I asked them if any of those were suitable, but they said no. They felt the reunion was a bummer because they couldn't eat any of the food, except maybe veggie burgers while everyone else was feasting. I might have been insensitive when I essentially told them, too bad. They should have said something when you sent out the invitation asking about allergies, or they could have just brought something themselves. Nothing else was said, but they gave some side eyes and loudly complained the rest of the afternoon. After the reunion, one of my aunts took me aside to tell me I had been a bad host to some of the guests because they just sat around watching others eat, and I didn't take their concerns seriously. I thought I had done enough just asking about allergies, but my brother and I have been wondering if we should have done more for the people we invited. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot? Even if you'd known they were vegetarian, that would have been a lovely spread. Yes, not much for vegans, but you had no idea anyone was vegan. They can take a hike and maybe forage some mushrooms on it. I also think the aunt is the idiot here. Even if she got some warped version of the story from the cousins, she could see all the food you provided. And calling you a bad host was wrong and unbelievably rude. She was a bad guest. It seems your cousins haven't learned this yet.